Hi everyone. This is video 3 to Stray, the story written by Cynthia Ryland. Make sure you have it with you. Yesterday we went over unknown words and we defined them and took a look at some pictures so we can better understand what was happening in the story. So today I want to go over a couple of our slides, 3 slides that I have set up for you. Where we're gonna read and answer questions, just like we did with Papa's Parrot, okay? Let me share my screen with you. Get your notebook, a pen or a pencil, wherever it is you're jotting down your answers or responses to Stray, okay? Pause the video if you need to so you can gather all your materials. Okay, so here's the first slide. So for this slide, I have a 2-part question. So we're gonna look at part A first and then part B. So part A says, select the sentence that gives the best inference about Mr. Amos, Doris's father. So remember, Mr. Amos is the one that does not want to keep the puppy that Doris has brought home. So let's see which one of these options, A, B, C, or D, describes or which one is the best inference we can make about Mr. Amos, okay? So option A, Mr. Amos is compassionate at the beginning of the story. And I'm clearly adding the beginning of the story because if you notice at the end of the story, there's a change, right? There's a change from Mr. Amos. So a change of thought and feelings from Mr. Amos. But at the beginning of the story, Mr. Amos is compassionate at the beginning of the story. Is that true? I want you to think back. Compassionate is that he cares or he has feelings and cares about the situation. So think about that. We're going to use the process of elimination, okay? So A, Mr. Amos is compassionate at the beginning of the story. Is that a good inference we can make about Mr. Amos? Or B, Mr. Amos is understanding at the beginning of the story. Does he really understand what's going on? Is he okay with the situation? Think about that. C, Mr. Amos is a rational person. Mr. Amos is a rational person. Rational means that he clearly is thinking about what's happening in his household, and rational, it's like putting things in order, things in place, and understanding what you are able to do and what you are not able to do. So rational is like really looking into the things that you are able to do in the situation that you're in. So if you remember, at the beginning of the story, it states that Mr. Amos, or that the family has very little money, right? So is this an inference we can make? Mr. Amos is a rational person. Or D, Mr. Amos is considerate at the beginning of the story. Is he considerate? Is he really analyzing and considering the situation? Is he caring about this puppy at the moment? So I want you to jot down in your notebook which one or which option is your best answer or response to what it's asking you. Select the sentence that gives the best inference about Mr. Amos. And you can use process of elimination. Again, go through A, B, C, D. Go ahead and pause the video and work that one out. Okay, so if you selected B, if you selected C as your answer, C, Mr. Amos is rational, is a rational person, you are correct. Mr. Amos is a rational person. You might not think he's nice or polite or being, allowing his daughter to keep this puppy, but he is rational. And let's look at B. And I think after we answer B, you'll have a better understanding. So underline the sentence from the passage that supports your answer in part A. So since we've decided that C is our answer, let's read this little short passage and see which one of these supports why he's rational. Okay, so I'll read it with you. Even after a week had gone by, Doris didn't name the dog. She knew her parents wouldn't let her keep it. that her father made so little money and any pets were out of the question, and that the pup would definitely go to the pound when the weather cleared. So out of this passage, go ahead and pause the video and select which one, which sentence or what phrase lets you know or explains why Mr. Amos is a rational person. Okay, pause the video. Okay, so did you select the correct phrase or sentence? I'll go ahead and read it one more time, and I'm gonna highlight where it explains that or why it explains Mr. Amos is rational. So even after a week had gone by, Doris didn't name the dog. She knew her parents would let her keep it, wouldn't let her keep it, that her father made so little money. So I'm gonna go ahead and highlight this part, right? They made so little money and any pets were out of the question. That means that they didn't make enough money to be able to feed this dog. Remember, taking care of a dog is a lot of work. You have to feed them, you have to bathe them, and it costs a lot of money to make sure you have food for this dog, right? So if you go back to part A, Mr. Amos is rational. He is rational. He's thinking about the fact that he can't afford to have a dog. That's why he's going to take him to the pound. He can't afford to have this dog. So yes, we can infer that Mr. Amos is rational. Okay, and if you circled or underlined that, that part of the phrase, then you are correct. Okay, let's move on to slide number 2. So slide number 2 is about the sequencing of the story, okay? We're gonna read it together and you're gonna decide which one of these is the proper sequencing or summary of the story in order. So after reading this short story, select the option that lists the proper sequencing of the story. So let's read A as our first option. Doris buys a puppy at the comic store. Did she buy a puppy at the comic store? Let's use the process of elimination, okay? So to help you answer. Doris buys a puppy at the comic store. Do you remember reading that in the story? I do remember the word comic, but it's not referring to a comic store. Let me go back really quick. It says it here. Icicles hung 3 feet or more from the eaves of houses. Snowdrifts swallowed up automobiles, and the birds were so fluffed up they looked comic. So they looked comic. That means that they looked kind of funny, right? Because comic drawings are like a little funny, or they might have different features that makes them interesting, right? So it's not talking about a comic store or a comic place. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna say no, A is not the proper response, but we're gonna keep on reading. You always keep reading just to make sure, double check your work, right? So Doris buys a puppy at the comic store. Her parents don't welcome it. Doris cries until she convinces her parents to keep it. Does she convince her parents to keep it? Does she cry until dad says, okay, you can keep it? I don't remember that in the story. So for sure, I'm already gonna say A is not our answer. Doris feeds the puppy and her father takes him to the pound. Some things are true about our option A, but it's not the right sequence, and some things are not true, right? Though some things did not happen in that story or in the story. So I'm gonna eliminate A. Let's read B. Doris brings home a puppy that wandered into her yard. Mr. Amos and Miss Amos do not welcome the pup. So far, that is true. The pup stays until the weather gets better. Mr. Amos isn't moved by Doris's praise towards the puppy and takes him to the pound. That's true, because Doris tries to convince him by saying she's a smart puppy. I'm gonna train her. Right? But it doesn't convince Mr. Amos. He still is going to take her to the pound. Doris is devastated. She cries. Mr. Amos brings the pup back after realizing the living conditions the puppy would succumb to. So this is a juicy word, succumb to. That means this is what the puppy is going to experience, right? He has no other choice, or she has no other choice. This is the living condition she's going to be under. And if you remember, at the end of the story, Mr. Amos describes how it smelled really bad, how they only gave them 6 days to live, and then they would pretty much get rid of them, causing them harm. There were too many puppies in one cage. So far, B, to me, it sounds like B would be the right one. But again, you need to continue reading. Make sure you read all of your options, okay? So we said no to A, and then B, we're still thinking about it. Let's see the letter C. Doris brings a puppy home. Yes. Her parents love the puppy and keep him in the basement. Do the parents really love the puppy at the moment? I don't remember that happening. No. Doris tells her parents how smart the puppy is. She does. Mr. Amos can't afford the puppy and takes him to the pound. Mr. Amos can't afford the puppy and takes him to the pound. That is true. That's the reason why he's taking him to the pound. Mr. Amos changes his mind and brings him back home. He does. But let's look at C again. Doris brings a puppy home. Yes, her parents love the puppy and keep him in the basement. You know what? Everything else is correct except for this one right here. Her parents love the puppy and keep him in the basement. That is not true. So this answer, letter C, would not be my proper answer, wouldn't be correct. Just this one sentence or phrase right here makes it incorrect. Everything else is true, but except this right here. Let's read D. Doris loves puppies and decides to bring one home. Mr. and Miss Amos don't like the puppy at the beginning. The puppy is so smart and cute that Mr. Amos and Miss Amos grow to like him. Is that true? Doris cries when Mr. Amos takes him for a walk. Did he take him for a walk? Do you remember that in the story? I don't. No, so I'm going to say no on this one, but let's keep reading. Doris is happy that she owns a dog. At the end of the story, I'm sure she's real happy that she keeps the dog, but some of these sequence sections here are incorrect, right? So I'm going to go back to A, we said no, B, we were considering, C and D, we said no. So our answer is B. We use process of elimination to help us find our answer. So if you agree with me, B is correct. I'm super happy that you are understanding what's happening in the story and you know the sequence of the story. Thank you, guys. Let's move on to our last slide for today. So we did this one, our last slide for today. So which part from the story best shows that Mr. Amos has had a change of heart? Which one of these tells you where Mr. Amos had a change in his final decision of either leaving the puppy at the pound or bringing him back home, right? So let's see which one tells us, or which option here is our best choice or our best answer. In the beginning of the story, when Mr. Amos tells Doris she can't keep the puppy, is that where he has a change of heart? Think about that. In the beginning of the story, when Mr. Amos tells Doris she can't keep the puppy, is he changing his mind at that moment? Is that changing his way of thinking? No, because that really did happen, right? He's telling her you can't keep the puppy. B, in the middle of the story, when Doris is trying to convince them to let her keep the puppy by telling them how smart she is, does he have a change of heart at that moment? When she's telling him how smart she is and she's going to train her? No, he doesn't have a change of heart. He still stays quiet, right? They stay quiet, mom and dad, while they're eating. Letter C, at the end of the story, when Mr. Amos takes a puppy to the dog pound and sees the conditions she would be living under and how they kill them after 6 days, is that when he has a change of heart? Remember at the end of the story, he takes her to the pound, but then he describes about the horrible conditions that the puppy would be living in. So then he brings her back. I think that clearly says he had a change of heart. So I'm going to hold on to C. Let's look at D. Remember, you don't just go for the first right answer you think it is. You got to read all of them. Letter D. When Doris cries inconsolably, that means she's so, so sad that nothing will make her feel any better. When Doris cries inconsolably as her dad prepares to take the puppy to the pound. Is he changing his mind there? Is he having a change of heart? No, he's not, right? So I'm going to go back. We're eliminating A, we're eliminating B, we're eliminating D, and C would be our correct answer, because that's when he has a change of heart. He has a change of heart at the end of the story when Mr. Amos takes the puppy to the dog pound and sees the conditions she would be living under and how they kill them after 6 days. That's when he decides to bring the puppy back home, right? If you remember that at the end of the story. So our C, letter C would be our best choice. Thank you guys. If you went ahead and selected that, then again, amazing work. Thank you for following along with the readings and the stories. Keep up the good work, because we're not done, and we want to make sure that you continue learning, okay? This is everything that we would have been doing in school, so I applaud you if you're following along with your teachers, because all of this is going to continue and ensure that you are growing and getting ready for 4th grade, my friends, okay? Thank you very much. See you guys tomorrow.